Tillo, and I'm inviting you to join me on a new railway adventure around the shores of the British Isles. I want to get to know these wild and windswept coastal regions. What an amazing sight. To understand their connection to the sea. Oh, a bit of a wobble. And the forces of nature and history that have shaped them. My first journey takes me along Scotland's east coast. It's full of nostalgia for me, from many childhood visits to my grandparents. My route will cover almost 300 miles, from the mouth of the Firth of Forth at Dunbar, through the Scottish capital Edinburgh, across the River Forth of Stirling, and tracking its northern shores through Kirkcaldy to the historic coastal university town of St Andrews. I'll hug this rugged coastline to reach Aberdeen and finish in the fishing port of Peterhead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. We'll shortly be arriving in Dunbar. Dunbar will be a famous stop for people this time. Thank you.
My journey begins with a genteel station, for Dunbar is an attractive town, and enviable commuters going to Edinburgh from here. And people who've retired from the city who want to stay in touch with its marvellous facilities. It's just a very short train ride from here. Dunbar is a North Sea herring and whaling port with a harbour that dates back to the 17th century, which is still busy today. Just beyond Dunbar, my adventure begins. I've come to an epic stretch of coastline. It's beautiful, and it's one of history's most important geological sites. Now here's an extraordinary story. Based on the Bible, the age of the Earth was thought to be just 6,000 years. And that went uncorrected by Galileo or Sir Isaac Newton. And the belief survived into the age of Enlightenment. It took a Scottish geologist working on this coastline to put it right. The biblical calculations were errata. The proper data were in the strata. I'm heading to Siccar Point, a rocky outcrop that's become a place of pilgrimage for geologists from across the globe. I've asked Dr. Angus Miller to help me understand what's so special about these rocks. Hello, Angus.
Hi, good to meet you.
I'm Michael, and you are, I think, on what you geologists regard as hallowed ground, aren't you?
Absolutely. Nowhere else like it in the world.
Is that so? Is that important? Oh my goodness. And that is what it's all about.
That is Siccar Point.
In 1788, geologist James Hutton and two colleagues sailed down the coast and made a profound discovery right here. A junction of rocks that proved to him that the world was not 6,000 years old, but dramatically older. This expedition, how did it come about?
Hutton had formed nearby. Sir James Hall lived at Dunglass, just up the coast. I think Hutton must just have said to his friends, this coastline, we've got the grey rocks to the south, we've got the red rocks to the north. Somewhere in here there must be a great junction.
That junction provided evidence of the immense amount of time over which the world has existed and evolved.
So here we are. We've got the underlying rocks sitting vertically now, and originally being flat on the seafloor. They've been turned up an end, and then about 55 million years later, 380 million years ago, we get the accumulation of the red sandstone, grain by grain, layer by layer, on top.
And at one time, this would have been as horizontal as that.
That's right. So it's the gap in time from the original formation of the grey rocks, now turned vertical, to the accumulation of the horizontal red layers, which is important for us.
What's so marvellous is that Hutton sees this, and no human being before had comprehended what he or she was seeing.
That's right, and for Hutton, he was able to tie that in with the natural processes over immense amounts of time. This happened, this happened, this happened.
James Hutton figured it all out. But it was John Playfair, the third man on the expedition, who explained his theory to the wider world and so gained recognition for Hutton.
Playfair later describes it as staring into the abyss of time. It's such a wonderful idea, because Hutton's ideas were huge. In his lifetime, they didn't really get much traction. And Playfair is the guy that takes it forward, and that feeds eventually through to Charles Darwin. So it's a very important day.
Today, James Hutton is considered to be the father of geology, and his discovery at this site continues to inspire Earth scientists.
Do you feel at your best and happiest here?
Yeah, this is what I love doing. This is a wonderful spot. I think it's wonderful because of the history of ideas. But I would come here anyway, because it's such a beautiful coastline. And it's actually the geology of Britain is here.
The Bible believed that the Earth was 6,000 years old. What's the real answer?
4,600 million years. The Earth is about halfway through its life. There's still about another 5,000 million years to go.
I'm going to check my pension.
I'm heading 20 miles northwest along the coast. My route will take me to the seaside town of North Berwick. It sits on a headland that extends into the Firth of Forth, a wide estuary that funnels towards Edinburgh. The railways arrived in North Berwick in 1850 and turned this small town into a fashionable resort known as the Biarritz of the North. The wealthy residents of Edinburgh flocked to its two delightful sandy beaches. In recent years, it's attracted a different type of tourist.
Every now and again, and just for a short while, I get absorbed by bird watching. And here on this coast, I have a really exciting opportunity, because that over there is the Bass Rock, and it appears to be covered in spring flowers. Actually, it's not. It's coloured by gannets.
Bass Rock has been described as one of the wildlife wonders of the world, and it's home to one of the planet's largest colonies of northern gannets. I'm so excited to make this trip.
Hello, Maggie.
Good morning, Michael. Welcome.
How are you?
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to see you. Bass Rock, here we come.
Maggie Shep works at the Seabird Centre in North Berwick and has been sailing out to the island for 20 years. She'll be my guide.
Is this where you stay, as they say?
I am so lucky.
It's a lovely town, though, isn't
It
it?
is indeed. I mean, look at the beaches. We've got, and it's such a community as well. I think that's so lovely here.
What are these birds above us now?
These are your gannets. Now, if you're looking up and all, don't have your mouth wide open.
Bass Rock juts dramatically from the sea a mile off the coast. It's a volcanic plug, lava that solidified in the vent of a volcano active 345 million years ago. Over millennia, the rock around it eroded, leaving the plug that looms above the waves. As we get closer, even more remarkable is the staggering number of birds.
Maggie, what an amazing sight.
It's stunning.
Thousands of birds. And what a noise as well.
It is. It's just, it's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. Huge population. And they're all the way up the cliff here, but of course we've also got the remains of the fortress.
The Bassrock was known as one of the strongest fortresses in the UK. It was just impenetrable because of these sheer cliffs.
Thanks to these forbidding cliffs, in the late 17th century, Bassrock became Scotland's Alcatraz, a bleak dungeon for religious and political prisoners.
Don't forget us, Doogie! Make sure you come back!
Welcome to the Baths. Here we are.
Well, thank you very much. Extraordinary sight, and I might say there's quite a welcoming odour as well.
There is indeed. There's something wonderful. First time in the season you come out and you have this, you go, they're back.
The last human resident, the lighthouse keeper, left in 1988, and since then the rock has been completely taken over by 150,000 gannets.
This is really an extraordinary experience for me. I can virtually reach out and touch this glorious bird with its wonderful plumage and its beautiful blue eye, and there are tens of thousands of them. Maggie, it's the most exceptional moment, isn't it? It's a wonderful thing.
It really is. For me, I still get excited when I land.
I just don't want to think about Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds at this moment.
Northern gannets are true seabirds. They live out on the ocean and come onto land only to breed. They take up residence on the cliffs of Bassrock from February until October.
Gannets they're colonial birds, so they nest very close together. You're just seeing them bill fencing. There's a lot of bowing. When they're bowing and the head's rotating, this is them telling all their neighbours, this is my territory, because the territory is really the most important thing to the gannet. It's a little bit barroom brawlish at times, where neighbours just throw a punch more or less. And while they're all jabbing each other, the ones behind go, I'll have that nesting material.
Oh, he's got a good load there. Do they migrate?
Yes, they go out anywhere really from the North Sea down to the Bay of Biscay, down off into the Mediterranean and off the coast of West Africa. Wherever there's good food for them, that's where they will go.
I almost have to pinch myself. It's so extraordinary to watch this going on a few feet away from me. And I'm seeing its mating traditions, its nest building, the fighting for territory. It's all here, and I can see it once more thousands of times.
This morning, I'm making my way to the Scottish capital. From North Berwick, it's a half-hour train journey west. My stop is Edinburgh Waverley Station, the terminus of the East Coast Main Line and Britain's second largest railway station. When the station was redeveloped in 2012, they replaced 27,000 panes of glass, enough to cover 14 football pitches. The station leads out into Edinburgh's Old Town. I just love Edinburgh, one of Britain's most beautiful and distinguished cities, and it consists of at least two towns. This is the old one, where the buildings cling to the city's steep slopes, and they've built high and thin early skyscrapers. And this is the Royal Mile, which joins the castle behind me and the Palace of Holyrood House at the bottom. And then it was adorned with fine public buildings, a cathedral, and statues commemorating those figures of the great Scottish Enlightenment and scholarship. The landscape of the city is dominated by the remnants of an ancient volcano, leaving Castle Rock, topped by Edinburgh Castle, and Arthur's Seat, the highest point in the city, which sits 251 metres above sea level. It's a wilderness in the heart of this busy city, and I'm going to hike to the summit with paleontologist Dr. Katie Strand. Katie, hello.
Hello.
Seated on Arthur's Seat.
I am indeed.
Shall we head on up?
Yeah.
This is it's very exciting for me because I used to come and see my grandparents in Kirkcaldy, and I could see Arthur's Seat all the time. Because it was called Arthur's Seat, I thought a bit about the mythology and Arthurian legends and so on. I never really thought about it as a piece of geology, and I never thought of setting foot on it. It's the first time I've set foot on it.
I think growing up as kids, it's always had that kind of mysterious legend to it. But I think for me, I just love how it's so prominent in the landscape here.
Well, it certainly is. It's 3 miles up to the summit, and it's a bit of a puff. You know, this has taken me by surprise. It's such a well-known landmark that I kind of assumed there'd be an asphalt path to the top. It's rather good that you have to actually climb. And boy, is it worth it. Well, Katie, what a fantastic view this is. My old Bradshaw's Guide compared Edinburgh to Athens, and I used to chortle about that. But there's something in it, because Edinburgh is dominated by Arthur's Seat, Athens by the Acropolis, and that's quite unusual to have a city dominated by a huge natural feature, and it's very distinctive of Edinburgh, isn't it?
It really is, yeah, and what we're standing on just now is the remnants of an ancient volcano that erupted about 350 million years ago. And I think that connection of this being that high point in the landscape is what's drawn ancient civilizations to this area for, hundreds of thousands of years.
What do we know about which peoples lived here and when?
Well, we know that there has been a lot of different periods of settlement here, and that includes Neolithic and Mesolithic settlements, sort of arrowheads and things that have been found, worked tools.
The high volcanic mounds gave settlers strategic views over the land, the Firth of Forth, and the coast beyond. The area's geology has also played a defining role in the city's appearance today, dictating both its look and layout. Edinburgh's beautiful honey-coloured buildings, is that sandstone that they're made of?
Yeah, so that's all Carboniferous sandstone. It's what's called a liver rock. That's an old term for it, and that means a stone that can be taken out of a quarry and finished to an ashlar finish. And that's what a lot of the more prestigious buildings in Edinburgh would have been built with.
Readily available and excellent for building, Carboniferous sandstone also offers a window into the past, as it's a rock rich in fossils.
And I've got some samples of ones that I've collected locally. When you think about the sort of past environments, it's always good to remember that it was a completely different climate. At this point, Scotland was lying near to the equator, so the climate was very, very different. And because of these increased temperatures that we had, a lot of the animals and plants, they had more oxygen and they were able to grow a lot bigger. So, for example, this is called Stigmaria. So this is just the root, and it's a cast of it. They could grow up to 50 to 60 metres in height. And the reason they're so important is this is what basically formed the coal deposits that we utilised in the central belt of Scotland and were so important for the Industrial Revolution. It tells a story of the changing climate through geological time and how it's still impacting humans today. We had also ancient tropical reefs, much like the Great Barrier Reef, full of lots of different marine animals, including sharks.
Is that a shark's tooth?
Yep. So this is from an ancient shark, which was called Cyvodus, which is my favourite shark. It's the one that I have tattooed on my fingers because it's the coolest shark that was in the Carboniferous.
Katie, just to help me with my spelling, may I see your fingers, please? Cyvodus. Cyvodus. It's lucky it wasn't 12 letters. How exciting is it to discover a fossil like that?
Very very exciting, I would say. Like, it never ever gets boring. I would say it's like it's sort of treasure hunting in a way. And you never know what else is still out there to be found in Scotland as well.
At the base of Arthur's Seat is the area known as Holyrood, the heart of Scottish political life and home to the Scottish Parliament.
I've been to the Scottish Parliament building a few times, and I rather like it. I mean, it's a very modern building. It doesn't look in any way like the Parliament that I was a member of, but I suppose that's actually part of the point of it. And if a nation feels strongly enough about itself that it wants to have a parliament, then I think it should jolly well have a good building to put it in. But buildings aren't neutral things. You know, buildings have effects, and I think the fact that the parliament has such a grand building has helped to give the parliament status. So those who instructed the architect to do something remarkable and striking probably knew what they were up to. There was politics, even in the design.
There's also symbolism in its location, as it stands directly opposite the Palace of Holyrood House, the official residence of the British monarch in Scotland. To delve into its history, I'm meeting historian Dr. Katrina Murray.
Katrina, what an absolutely wonderful place to meet.
Isn't it? It's absolutely spectacular. It's a statement of royal power in the centre of Scotland's capital itself. The tower over here is early 16th century, so it's associated with the Scots Stuarts. It was built under James V. Those Stuarts inherit the crown of England under James I, of England and 6 of Scots. And this later part here, which is built in the late 17th century by James I's descendant, Charles II, who was King of England and Scotland. And what he's doing here is he's really affirming and asserting Stuart monarchy, which has shifted to south of the border, but still it's relevant for Scotland. This is a tangible demonstration of royal power in Scotland despite an absent king.
The Queen of Scotland, of course, is not entirely absent. She's here from time to time. Tell me about those visits.
The Queen, current Queen Elizabeth, well, she comes, I think, for about 1 week a year for the Holyrood summer party.
The garden party.
The garden party, exactly. And that's when she meets Scots officials. It's again, this moment where the monarchy down south is reconnecting with its Scots subjects, reminding Scotland of its own royal history.
This historic palace has borne witness to many turbulent events, and none more shocking than a gruesome atrocity during the reign of Mary, Queen of Scots.
So, through here, this is Mary, Queen of Scots' bedchamber, but I want to take you into this smaller room here, her supper room.
On the 9th of March, 1566, in the presence of the Queen, a grisly murder was committed.
And is this the very place?
This is it. This is it itself. To set the scene slightly, so Mary has spent some time in France. She's returned to Scotland and she has got married to Henry Lord Darnley. And the marriage is, let's just say, it's not love's great dream. And tensions are also emerging around Mary's retinue, which is highly European. She has French advisors, and in particular David Rizzio, who is her Italian secretary. And there are rumours beginning to circulate about Rizzio's intimacy with the Queen, that things are not quite proper. Well, Mary's having supper. She's with her closest confidants, including David Rizzio. Mary's husband, Henry Lord Darnley, unexpectedly joins them and sits beside Mary. And then a group of dissident lords enter her bedchamber and rush into the supper room. Darnley holds Mary back and they find their focus, Rizzio, and they grab him and he is dragged through from the supper room into the bedchamber. And then into the following room and they stab him 57 times.
Good Lord, Emma. And Mary, Queen of Scots, witnesses all of this.
Yes, and is pregnant at the time. She eventually was fine, apart from the shock of the incident. But when she gives birth to her son, she does so at Edinburgh Castle, which is the fortified, much safer royal residence after what's happened at Holyrood.
This has been the stuff of myth in my family. If anyone cuts their finger and it starts to bleed, we call it Rizzio's murder. I mean, it was a really appallingly gruesome murder.
It really was.
This awful killing was merely the prelude to the prolonged tragedy of Mary Queen of Scots' later life. She would be imprisoned by her cousin Queen Elizabeth I of England, an incarceration that lasted for 18 years.
So, although Mary is ostensibly kept as a guest to start off with, it becomes very clear that actually this status as guest is actually status as prisoner. And once you've been held prisoner for 20 years, being involved in plots against your captor, what have you got to lose?
Your head is the answer.
Well, this is true. And I think in many ways, this is where Mary really shines during her execution at her death. She approaches the executioner block dressed in black, and she disrobes to a red petticoat and bodice, and red is the colour of martyrdom, Catholic martyrdom, and it becomes this iconic moment in her mythology and sets her up as the cult of Mary, Queen of Scots. It's why we still remember her today.
Although her dramatic life was cut short, she triumphed dynastically, since her son, King James VI of Scotland, on the death of the childless Elizabeth I, succeeded to the English throne as James I. To this day, the two crowns remain united under a single sovereign.
When I first came to these parts as a youngster, of course, I had no idea that the geology was so interesting, nor indeed that James Hutton had hereabouts deduced that the Earth went back not 6,000 years, but hundreds of millions of years. And by comparison with that, I mean, human history is just a moment. Mary Queen of Scots was alive less than 500 years ago. I love history because it's full of exciting episodes, and also because it helps to explain our great institutions like monarchy. And also, by telling us where we came from, it helps to explain who we are.
Next time,
That tremendous smell of a steam train. We're underway. With a gorgeous view of the Firth of Forth. It's like a desert with the enormous wind sweeping across it. That is actually a glorious sight. I'm just astonished by all this. I'm impressed by Corus would be, to put it mildly, this town is a kind of real insight into an old Scotland.